Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make a layered cat papercraft project using a free SVG from my website. This tutorial will show you how you can take this little cat design, put it into Cricut Design Space, size it, and even recolor it to match your cat. And if this design doesn't look all that much like your cat, don't worry because I actually have over 20 different cat designs available in my SVG shop. The link to that and for this freebie is in the description below the video. Let's see how to get this loaded into Cricut Design Space. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-svgs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, open up Cricut Design Space and start a new project. Go into Upload on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the SVG file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped folder, and then the file to upload is the one which starts SVG in the file name. I'm going to click and drag that in. And it should look like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you can see the layers next to each other instead, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file. So if that's the case, click cancel on the bottom right and then try again and make sure you upload the one which starts SVG. Then press upload and the file will upload and then show in your recent upload section where you can click it to get a green border around the edge and then press add to canvas. I've done the design as a black and white cat, but you can change the colour if you want to. I'll show you how to do this very quickly, but if you'd like a more in-depth tutorial that is much slower and goes into it in a lot more detail, check the description of this video as I'll include a link in there to some other videos I've done. As well as a video on how to do the recolouring, I've also done videos on how you can add patches of colour. So if you maybe had a cat that had different colours of patches on, you'd be able to do that. And also a tutorial on, originally I did this for the dog designs where you can make brindle fur, but you could use the same technique to achieve things like tortoiseshell or tabby cat effect. So all of those will be in the description of this video, or you can go to craftwithsarah.com/school to view all of the free tutorials. For now, let's say we're making a ginger and white cat instead of black and white. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom in the layers panel and choose the very bottom layer, which is the solid one behind those back legs. In the colours box, let's choose a nice orange. And then I want to make sure all of the other layers that were that original dark grey become this new orange. The easiest way to do that is to press Colour Sync on the top right, and then find those dark grey layers and click and drag them to that new orange. I'll then do the same thing with the black, so I'll scroll down and find the first black layer and make that a slightly darker orange so that when it's cut out from a different colour of cardstock, you'll be able to see all of the patterns. I'll go to Colour Sync again and drag those other body layers onto the orange and also the head. But I don't want to drag the eyes, they're going to stay as black. You could then also change the face if you want to. So this is actually loaded in kind of a slight off-white, but we could make it a pure white. It doesn't really matter, you can choose whatever you want when you're putting it into your machine. But let's drag those whites of the eyes over and the whiskers. And then the ears, let's say we wanted them to be pink, we could drag them onto the same colour as the nose. And then very quickly, you see how we've managed to achieve a completely different look for the same design. I'm going to test cut it as it loads in the black and white version. So I'm just going to undo those changes and then press layers again so that you can see all the different coloured layers. All of these layers are grouped, which means you can resize everything at the same time. I like to use the width and the height boxes for a precise size to make sure that it will fit in the frame or on the greetings card that I'm making. To resize it in this way, first make sure the padlock icon is closed. If it's open, then click it to close it. And then you can type into either the width or the height box and then press enter. And the other measurement will change in proportion. So you can see there I changed the width to 6.5 inches, but the height also changed, which means everything still looks exactly as it should. When you're happy with how your cat is looking, press Make It over on the top right, and that will split everything out by colour. You can move things around on the page by clicking and dragging, which is a really great way of using up less of your materials. But make sure you don't do what I've done here. You see the whiskers are overlapping that layer of the cat body, which means they're both going to cut in the same place and this isn't going to work. Instead, make sure that when you're moving things about, none of the different shapes overlap. You can change the paper size in this drop down. Just be aware that you do need to change it for every colour, so you'd need to go through each one to change the size. When you've got all of your pages looking as you want them to, press continue, and that will connect to your Cricut machine, and then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from cardstock. Here are all of my layers cut out from cardstock, and I've just placed them one on top of the other to check I'm happy with all the colours and to make sure I haven't missed anything. For this design, I'm going to be using black foam squares, and that's because the edges of these, if I open them up, you see the edges are black, which means when you look at this from the side, you're not going to see any little white bits like you would if you used the normal white foam pads. You see they're white on the side. So these ones are from a brand called Dot & Dab, but I'm sure you can get them from lots of different places. The glue I'm using is called Collall, and I really like this because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the card like other glues can do. And then I'm putting it into these needle tip applicator bottles that I get on Amazon. These have teeny tiny nozzles on, so I'm going to be able to get my glue in all of these details. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So I'm going to move these apart and try and keep kind of similar layers together, just so it's easier to know which one to pick next. The very bottom two layers are my solid dark grey, and then the flower layer with those back legs and the tail. And this one's going to go on top of here, and I need to glue it. So I'm going to turn it upside down and get my glue. If you have glue in a tiny needle tip bottle, it's so much easier when doing these designs because you can be really accurate. So I can get my glue around the edge of all of these cutouts, and it's just really easy, there's no mess, and you can be quite quick too. Oh, there's a little bit of card there that shouldn't be there. Let's get rid of that. Just putting my glue around there, and then I'll put some in the middle as well because I don't want this coming apart. And then I'm going to just stick it on top, and it lines up perfectly. I'm not going to push down too hard because I don't want any of the glue to smush out and become visible in any of the spaces. The next layer is this solid one, which is going to go on top, and this is where I use my foam squares. So although they look like they're going to be white because they've got white topper on, when you peel it off, if I just show you on that one, it is all completely black underneath. And if you can get these, then I think it does give an overall better appearance if you're making a project that's got lots of dark colours in it. As well as putting the foam around the outside, you want to make sure you put some bits in the middle as well, especially on large pieces like this, because it helps to give it stability. If you only had your foam squares around the outside and none in the middle, you'll probably find that the middle bit would dome downwards and sag, especially once all the other layers are put on top. And whilst technically there's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't look as good. So by putting foam squares in the middle, we're giving it a nice stable backing of all this foam, which means it's not going to dome downwards. To stick this on, first line it up with what's already underneath and then just gently let it drop. And the reason I'm doing that is that if I hadn't quite lined it up right, it's really easy to pick up and then start again without damaging anything because we haven't actually put any pressure on those foam pads yet. But I'm happy with that, so I'm going to push down to get all of those sealed and then add the next layer, which is the main flower one for the body. This is another glue layer, and this one is even more fiddly than the last. So do that bit first because it's the easiest. And then just go around the edge. Here we go. And then I'm also going to go around the middle of the flowers, around the circles, just so there's a little bit more glue holding this all together. And then just like before, we're going to line it up. And you've got a little bit more wiggle room with glue, but I'm just going to very gently push it down again because I don't want that glue to come out and be visible in any of the gap. The next layer is this chest piece, and this is a glue layer. A nice and easy glue layer this time. I can just whack my glue straight on there, very quick. And then stick this down. There we go. And if you were making this for a cat which is all one colour, you could cut it from the same colour as the body rather than have the white tummy. And the next layer adds the detail into the chest of the cat. And this is another glue one, which you probably guessed because I am gluing it. So how I do the white parts on my dogs and cats is the solid layers I cut from pure white, and then the detailed layers on top, I'm using just a slight off-white. It's kind of almost cream or ivory, but it's just slightly different to the pure white, which means that you get the difference in colours enough that you can see the details, but it still looks, overall it looks white when you've got it on there. And that's really good for things like pure white cats, or if you're doing dogs, maybe a Westie or a Maltese that are, you know, all white dogs. Just using those two slight variations means you can see all the pretty bits, but it still overall ends up looking the colour it's supposed to. I'm going to work on the leg next, and the solid layer will be foamed. Pieces are getting smaller now, so you don't need as many foam pads. And then stick that one on top. And then our last flower piece is the leg to go on there. And this one will be glued. This is quite narrow, so take your time when you're adding your glue on there to keep it nice and neat. And then it just sits on top. All right, next we've got the solid head layer, and this one again will be a foam layer. Make sure you get some foam up in those ears, as well as in the main face. And I probably could have got away with using my white foam pads on this layer. In fact, you might be able to see the black through. Just gonna, because this is particularly thin paper that I'm using as well. Yeah, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but I'd be able to see those through. So I'm just gonna take those off. The rest of them will all be okay because they're going to be covered up by black. But those ears, I'm going to use a white foam square instead. There we go. Crisis averted. Right, that one sits on there. There we go. And then the next one is the ears, which will be glued. Try and get some up in there. Oh, do you know what I've just done? I think I've just put the glue on. Oh no, I thought I'd glued the wrong side, but I haven't. Oh, that would have been a disaster. Oh dear. Okay, next I'm going to add the bottom bit of the face, which is the one without the whiskers, and this one will be foamed. And again, because it's a white piece, I'm going to go back to my white foam squares. Oh, missed. Put that on there. And then the next one to go on top will be glued. I'm not going to put the glue in the whiskers because they are just too teeny tiny. Just a bit in the middle will be fine. There. And then the nose, just dab of glue on there. And I'd like to just pick it up with my finger, but you could use tweezers or something to make that a little bit easier. There we go. And finally, our little cat needs some eyes. And these come in two pieces. You've got the white bit and then a smaller black circle to go on top. So I'm going to separate these out. There we are. And then just going to see where I want them to go. I think that's about right. So then a tiny dab of glue and pick up. Stick that one on there. And then the other side. And then one more little dab of glue in the middle of the white. I'm going to do both of them whilst I'm here. And then put on the black circles. And I like to do this so that the little hole in the eye is pointing up towards the left. But you can really point them any way you like, as long as both eyes are sort of pointing in the same direction. Otherwise, if you do them completely differently, then your little cat can end up looking a bit cross-eyed. But this is looking beautiful and it is all finished now and ready to go into a shadow box or on a greetings card or wherever it is that I want to display it. If you enjoyed making this cat design and you'd like to add to your collection, then check out my SVG shop, which is shop.craftwithsarah.com. Go onto the website and then click into categories and then cat SVGs, and there are a whole host of different designs in there for you to choose from. My favourite is this ragdoll design. I think it is absolutely the cutest out of all of the cats. Let me know in the comments which one you like best. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make a layered cat paper craft with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more free SVGs and Cricut craft tutorials. Thank you for watching. Bye!